Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Funky Pharmacist Podcast. Sarah and Hillary here with you today. And we're going to do something a little different today. Some of you guys are going to hear this as a podcast. This is also probably going to come out as a video. So, Hillary just had her yearly blood work done. And we are going to share Hillary's blood work with you guys and go over what we look at and why, and what hers looks like, and how she feels about it this year. Right?
Right. I think it's very important to kind of you'll kind of get the workings of my brain and how we go through it, right? And then what's unique about this, and this is why we had the idea, is that it gives us the trends. It's my overall 5-year trend. So then now I can talk through that, and then you'll see from year to year to year and get an idea of why it's important to do this type of blood work year to year to year.
Which we've shared our recommended blood work before on social media and podcasts. So this is like no real new stuff, but it's an actual look at real levels in real life.
Mm-hmm. All right, so I'm going to share my screen. All right, you see that?
Yep. So what we're bringing up for those that are listening on a podcast is Hillary had her blood work done through Alta Labs, which is a out-of-pocket service that you can do without a physician or anybody signing off on it. Our blood work that you're going to see that Hillary ran runs around $250 with a discount code. Correct, Hillary?
Correct. I added a little bit more things because I diagnosed with myself with a couple of dumb things, but I'll talk about that. This ended up being around 350, but normal, conventional, suggestive blood work runs 250. Yes.
And for those that aren't seeing the video, the great thing about getting this stuff through Quest Diagnostics, it's very easy to read. They put it in green for good, yellow for caution, and red for something you might want to look at as far as your blood work. So it doesn't take a rocket scientist to read it. So they make that really nice. So I guess dive in.
Okay. So this is me. I just did this last week. I'll kind of go through what supplements I'm on too. But I feel like this year was like my tippy top year. This is like the most awesomest blood work ever for me. So I'm very happy with that. So let's just go into cardiovascular health. So this is your traditional lipid panel. I do look at their standard ranges, right? So I want my cholesterol to be under 200, my triglycerides to be under 150. In here, we can see in 2020. So let me give you a little story about myself. In 2019, when we first started the store, 2020, this is kind of pandemic as well. I was having a lot of gut issues. So my gut was a wreck, chronic constipation. I had a lot of food sensitivities. I was kind of just a baby in this whole integrative functional medicine approach. So I was kind of putting my foot in the water at that point. So we'll see that things have kind of, I'll give you reasonings of why things may be wacky and better. So over in 2020, my cholesterol was 162. It kind of went up and down over the years. I ended up with 170 now. Awesome. Love it. Triglycerides at that point, when I had this major leaky gut issue, my triglycerides were elevated. We'll kind of explain that in a little bit. But this could be due to the fact also that I didn't take enough fish oil. So fish oil, good quality fish oil such as ours, because it's targeted, it's high potency, therapeutic fish oil, will also bring down your triglycerides. So I upped my I upped my fish oil at this point, and now I'm at 108. So that's with 2 omega-3s a day. Plus I put flaxseed in my smoothies every morning. Eat a lot of chia seeds, so that probably helps as well. And then we look at the cholesterol HDL ratio. We want it under 5. It's consistently under 5. To be honest, it's not hard to do. And the population that we see, most people do not have an issue with that. Going down here, if I looked at my non-HDL, that's within range. I don't have much to say about that. If I go down a little bit more, we're falling into the HDL cholesterol category. That's your good cholesterol. Now, I have always historically been low. So I don't have enough protective cholesterol. to kind of help balance things out. Women have a hard time achieving that, number one, I see. But see how I've fallen and I've kind of gradually increased to what is good now. And I'm barely good. I'm on that range. But what increases HDL and is protective is niacin supplementation. I'm not saying jump on niacin. That's not my point. My point's going to be exercise. I am more active than I ever probably have been in a consistent basis. So we're going to see an increase in my HDL probably because I'm a little bit more dedicated to exercise. So that's the reasoning behind that. If I go one step further, LDL. So LDL, back when I graduated pharmacy school 20 plus years ago, the cap for LDL was 130. We have now become more stricter, and I always argue we're more of a sicker population, so this restriction hasn't really helped us. It's kind of set us into the guidelines of just putting everyone on a statin, to be honest with you, and that's my personal opinion. But they're shooting for under 100 now. Well, now I'm 100, and I'm very happy with this. It's not a red flag to me. The bigger picture, say my cholesterol was jacked up, my triglycerides, my LDL, and let's just say I was running high. That's why we look at homocysteine and what's called HSCRP, which we'll look at in 2 seconds. Those are inflammation markers. Those are 10-year risk predictor for cardiovascular events. I feel before we play this numbers game at getting this cholesterol under control, we need to look at everything. We need to look at what's going to contribute to overall health. Just playing these numbers games is not enough. The other thing I'm going to say is if you have a consistently high cholesterol, LDL, maybe have a conversation with your physician looking at calcium scores. Calcium scores in your artery as well is very important. I think it's, something that can be taken in consideration when we are looking for a statin. So I'm happy with my cholesterol. Very good. And actually it's improved. HSCRP. Now I've got 4 years missing here. Back in 2021, we're on the top end of 0.9. If I was to look at 2019 and 2020, I was at 1.3. HSCRP is an inflammation marker. It is essentially an inflammation marker of just overall health, right? It's not meaning that I'm going to have more arthritis pain or, a knee pain or something like that. It's cellular inflammation as well. So when I had more of a leaky gut and my body was inflamed gut wise and among other things, even low, I had low ferritin, which we'll talk about, that was contributing to overall inflammation. This number has gotten better. So it was 1.3, 0.9, and now I'm at 0.3. So I don't have a lot of systemic inflammation, and that is huge. So we want it to be under 1.
As a marker, I think this last year, I think mine went down, but mine is still at I think it's at a 3.6.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like a 5 point something. So it's improving, but there's still work to do.
And, I should say, why would it be inflamed? Well, if you're estrogen dominant, if you carry more weight, if you have low vitamin D, if you're low on omega-3s, if you have leaky gut issues, there's so many reasons. You have high cortisol. So it's hard. It definitely gives us an idea, and it's a baseline, and it's something that we can see improvement and if we're headed in the right direction. But it takes a skilled practitioner to kind of figure out, well, why, right? You got to go through a 2-hour conversation to kind of get an idea of why that may be happening. Good point. In my personal life right now, my muscles have been killing me. And it basically comes down to just overall drinking water and probably consuming enough protein and electrolytes, just the 3 basic things to keep you alive that I do not do best. So I'm like, okay, well, my muscles hurt. I want to double check my creatinine kinase this time. And this is why my test costs a little bit more. So creatinine kinase is kind of gives you an idea if your muscles are breaking down. And if they break down and they're injured, they're going to create more creatinine kinase. So I wanted to make sure this level was within the reference range, and it is. So that was just me self-diagnosing. Homocysteine. is another 10-year risk predictor. So this is something I consider when there is high cholesterol, but beyond that, I want this to be between 4 and 6. I don't want it to be the 10. Optimally between, well, I'm going to say not 4 and 6. I'm going to go 6 to 8, really. And that is dependent on folate status and B12 status. But if we go one step further, it's dependent on how those vitamins get into the cell. So how you're methylating, how you're detoxifying. It gives me an overall idea about like the amount of energy you have in the cell, how, like I said, detoxification, how you're getting rid of different toxins, including even just estrogen. So it's very important. And especially nowadays where, 40% of us have this MTHFR mutation, this is a way to keep an eye on it to see if you're getting enough vitamins as you should in the correct form of vitamins. You have anything to add to that, Sarah?
No, I mean, you kind of covered it. There's folate in all of our foods out there and stuff like that. And if you have that gene, then you can't break it down. So you might be giving your body what it needs, but it can't use it. So yeah,
Yeah. I
definitely.
would like to say, just as an observation for myself, 2024, I was sitting at 4.9. Here I'm at 6, but in the last probably 2 weeks, I have not been taking my B vitamins. So this could be reflective of a little bit of B12 deficiency. Now, homocysteine usually figure it's like a 6 to 3 month or a 2 to 3 month marker for me. It will hang on for some time. So that could be the difference. I just didn't dial in. TSH, thyroid. Ooh, now this is a good one. Ideally, we want TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone, to be between 1 and 2. So as years went on, I've stayed there. TSH, depending on this value, it will signal your thyroid to release what's called free T4. Free T4 should be around 1, and it has. Over the years, it stayed 1.1, 1, and then 1, again, 1.1. Perfect. But that's where conventional medicine stops. If all that's well, then, they move on. Your symptoms are not because of thyroid issues. But the kicker is the body doesn't use those, right? The body uses what's called free T3. So to me, that's more important to kind of see if your body's doing what it needs to do. 1 year I did do total T4 and just this overall package. I'm going to skip that because I don't use that on a regular basis. Free T3, excuse me, free T4 should convert to free T3 at least 32 to 35%. In a perfect world, that would lead free T3 to be around 3.3 to 3.5. Your body should convert that naturally. If it does not, and I'm falling short, let's just say, and this is the most perfect my thyroid's ever been, so it's wonderful. I'm so happy about it. Let's just say a lot of times we're seeing people with free T3 around 2.5 to 3. It is 4 different factors that I kind of focus on. There's a lot of different factors, but the 4. I need perfect vitamin D levels, which we'll talk about. I need perfect ferritin levels, which we'll talk about. Those are your iron stores. I need to consider taking maybe selenium. So Michigan and Ohio are one of the most selenium deficient states because of our soil content. I mean, we see this even in just our horses. And selenium, 200 micrograms is needed a day for optimal thyroid. That's 2 Brazil nuts a day, right? So if you like nuts and you want protein, eat 2 Brazil nuts and you're covered. The other thing is iodine. And we're finding that we are becoming more iodine deficient based off of we're just not eating iodinized table salt. A lot of people are getting away from table salt. They're going Himalayan, they're going Celtic sea salt, and that does not have any iodine in it. So I'm not saying take iodine because you can throw your thyroid out of whack with too much iodine and not enough. So the perfect amount is 150 micrograms of iodine a day. That can be found in a 1/4 teaspoon of table salt. We need table salt. We need to support our adrenals. We're more stressed out as we ever been, and that just kind of keeps them vibrant and happy. So a 1/4 teaspoon table salt is not going to set you over the edge, blood pressure and all that, right? It's going to be like the fast food and the microwave meals and all that's just too much sodium excess. So I'll get off my rock, my soapbox for iodine, but iodine plays the role. The other thing is cortisol and stress. Stress will steal it like no other. So that's all I will add in thyroid. The other thing is thyroglobulin antibodies. So my antibodies are one, that's exactly where it should be. I have thyroid issues that run in the family. So if those numbers start going up 50, 100, shoot, I've seen people with 1,000. It's an indicator that your thyroid's ticked off and you got to figure out why. So I'm very happy. And that's something I check every year with antibodies being one. Anything I missed there?
Nope. You're even if you miss something on thyroid, I don't think I'd catch you.
Diabetes and insulin resistance. So commonly, we'll look at glucose. That's a snapshot of what's going on at that direct time. Once we fast, so with this blood work, I always suggest fasting 8 to 12 hours. Fasting blood glucose was 87. Perfect. Love it. But that doesn't give us an idea of what's happening any other time of the day. That's where hemoglobin A1C comes in. So hemoglobin A1C is the average blood glucose over 3 months. It's essentially catching all the spikes and dips. Pre-diabetes is now considered anything at 5.7 or above. I'm looking for people to be under 5.4 in a perfect world. Now, what's my number one weakness, Sarah?
Sugar. She eats candy
Sugar.
and sweets like crazy. It is an
So
addiction.
it's an addiction. Thank you. So I was so pleased and I was kind of like, yeah, Sarah, look at 5.1. Awesome.
Mhm.
So my average sugar is beautiful. Again, I'm shooting for under 5.4. But this is just catching the spikes and dips. It doesn't tell me how much my body's working behind the scenes to keep this normal. Because if your body works harder, often it's reflective of insulin, and insulin can increase and then it can cause more inflammation and risk factors otherwise. So I'm not always happy with just seeing hemoglobin A1C. It's not the full story. So I'm going to go here and we should see insulin. So this is my insulin value. This is how much my body's producing to keep my hemoglobin A1C normal. I'm shooting for insulin to be between 6 to 8. They don't check insulin. It's something that you've got to ask for. We want it to be under 18.4. So a lot of times you'll hear in TikTok or Facebook or whatever you may be reading of this insulin resistance problem. So as what that means is that your body has to pump out more insulin to keep that sugar down, or the insulin that you are pumping out is not being, your glucose is not being as respondent to that insulin. Insulin resistance can be a problem if you're vitamin D deficient, magnesium deficient, and omega-3 deficient. So if someone's insulin was to come in at maybe like, I don't know, let's just say 15, and they're not taking any of those supplementations or they're not getting it in their diet, then that's where we kind of focus on. The other thing that's good at bringing insulin down, and I'm not saying just jump on it because your insulin's elevated, we've got to consider lifestyle and food changes and things like that, is a supplement called berberine. So we do see a reduction with berberine, but that again doesn't mean just jump on it because your insulin's up there. So I'm very happy where my insulin is there. Anything that I'm missing, Sarah, on that?
No, I think that covered it.
Back in the day, I checked sex hormones. I'm going to skip that because it's not the common blood work that we recommend. So then we come to comprehensive metabolic panel, CMP. That's what is conventionally done. Doctors usually do that as a standard when you do get blood work. Here we're looking at protein, Now, this doesn't say just because my protein is on the lower end does not mean that I don't eat enough protein. So you can't just assume this is based off of dietary protein. Lots of factors. But it does give me a general idea. So back in 2019, I was good at 6.7, 6.8, but I've kind of declined. Here's the problem. I am horrible at eating protein. I need to be shooting for at least, just pulling a number out of the hat, 60 to 80 grams, and I am falling short. So, I was talking about how my muscles are aching and something's off. Well, it's probably protein consumption as part of that. So I know I have to eat a little bit more. It could be, though, let's just say I am consuming enough protein. A lot of times nowadays, we are having digestion problems. We're not breaking down the carbohydrates. We're not breaking down the proteins. We're not breaking down the fats. Our body's not doing a good enough job because of, stress or diet or what have you. So that could be taken into consideration as well. Albumin and globulin, I kind of skip over. It gives us an idea of how the overall body's working, but it's not something I focus on when I do my detective work. I just want to make sure it's within that range. Albumin globulin ratio, if sometimes the conventional medicine physician denies on some of this funky blood work, such as HSCRP, that inflammation marker, I'll look at albumin globulin ratio. So it's kind of suggestive. I want it to be around 1.8, if not above that. Anything lower than that is suggestive of a little bit of inflammation going on. So here are 1.7. I'm at 1.6 here. Remember, that's when I did have quite a bit of inflammation going on, and my HSCRP was a little bit too elevated at 0.9. Well, elevated for me at 0.9 and 1.3. So now I'm at 1.9. I don't have a lot of inflammation. I should mention, though, with that being said, a lot of times everyone is this type of look at things should be personalized, right? Someone else's normal is not your normal. So I just mentioned, that's not my norm. So people, and that's why we do this from year to year to year, because obviously over the past 6 years, I've established a norm. So then I know what's off, and we'll look at that in a second when it comes to my CBC, and we'll talk through that. So again, follow your norm and take that into consideration. Bilirubin's fine. I'm going to skip that. Alkaline phosphatase is something that I look at. And to me, it's like, how much burden is your liver? We'll have AST and ALT further down. That's how your liver's it's processing, it's inflammation. It's like the total look at your liver. Alkaline phosphatase is just, to me, it's just a burden. If that number's elevated, of course, you're going to have more of this burden. I'm at 58. Beautiful. Love it. No, that was in 2019. We'll look at one more in a second. I was at 58. Let's see where I'm at. AST is liver enzyme, as I mentioned. I'm at 21, spot in the middle. Now, conventionally, we're always worried about high liver enzymes, fatty liver and all that. Could be for various reasons, medications, maybe excess drinking. There's a lot of reasons, but I'm also looking for that to be low. If your AST and ALT is around 10, 12, it's suggestive of you maybe being deficient of zinc and B6. So I kind of look for that. My ALT, I mentioned, that's another just total liver enzyme, riding at 22, beautiful. My alkaline phosphatase, I mentioned, it's at 51, very similar to where it was previously, so I'm happy with that. Do you have anything to add about liver?
Nope.
Lactase dehydrogenase, that's also like tissue breakdown. It's not something that is on our suggested blood work. It's just something that I keep an eye on. It kind of just falls into trends. I want it to be between 100 to 200, and mine's consistent. If it starts going up, then my body is being disrupted somehow. So I just wanted to, at this point in my life, being 45, I wanted to establish a norm should I ever have to pull this. And so now I've got my norm and it's staying consistent. I also diagnosed myself with sluggish gallbladder. So just for the same reason of just establishing a norm and seeing where I am, I wanted my GGT. So GGT is an indication of gallbladder. It's a indication of how we're just detoxifying as well. And I wanted just to establish a norm like the other things I just mentioned. And I'm 7 and it should be between 3 to 55. So that was another add-on this year. Kidney and urinary health, kidney function, a lot of yours will be off. If you are fasting, it's kind of a signal of dehydration, and that's a norm. So again, doing it from year to year, you kind of established what is normal for you. So I'm going to skip that. Where I'm really focusing is this EGFR. So EGFR is glomerular filtration rate. It's how your kidneys are filtering and overall functioning. Where is my EGFR? Last year, I was at 88. This year, I'm at 71. As you age, this number will decrease. I don't want to be any less than 60 because then it's like, that's where they kind of categorize, not renal failure, but kidney disease. Here's the problem though. At my age, I should probably be between 90 to 100, ideally. I'm at 61 and it's getting worse. I know it is not inflammation because my inflammation is doing pretty good. So a lot of times when HSCRP is elevated, this GFR will be lower. Well, mine's fine. My problem is I just don't drink enough. I'm horrible at drinking water, and I think it's taken a toll. So I will be watching that. I do not want it to decrease any more. So that's probably on me and my weakness of just drinking enough water.
Real quick, let's put that into perspective for people because you almost always have the giant bottles of smart water in your hands. And I will go through, if I had to tell you how many of those large smart waters I drink in a day, it's probably 4 or 5 in a day. And they're the 34 fluid ounce bottles. How many of those do you drink in a day?
Anywhere from a half to one, in addition to a 16-ounce cup of coffee.
The coffee don't count.
Yeah, half to one. I rarely consume more than one.
Yeah. So I just wanted to put that in perspective for people,
So
not to
how
call you
many?
out,
So
but like a
we
lot of people
should,
struggle with water.
yeah, and it should be half our body weight in ounces, right? So let's just say, and I don't ever weigh myself. I'm bad at that too. Let's just say I weigh 140. So I should be drinking 70 ounces. So yeah, 70 ounces a day. So how many ounces is one of those?
33.8, so I rounded it up to 40.
So I should consume at least 2 of those a day, if not more.
Yeah.
So let's just say you drank all that. Do you feel hydrated, like it's getting to just like your skin and all that, or do you pee it out a lot?
I think for me it's both. I definitely know like I am super sensitive to being like dehydrated. Like I have a hard time going on like road trips because I just drink so much water. And I guess I feel like I get kind of lethargic if I don't drink enough water.
So my point being is the people who just like drink a lot, like you,
Mm-hmm.
have to have electrolytes in there, right? Because when you have the electrolytes added at some time during the day, that will take that water and get it into the tissues where it needs to go. Otherwise, you will just be peeing it out.
Yep. Good
Love it.
point.
Um, so the electrolytes, I just talked about electrolytes. This doesn't mean like I'm using electrolytes in different contexts, right? So just because these are fine doesn't mean that I need electrolytes. This is how your heart's ran. This is how your muscles are ran. It's the electrolytes that your body needs to function, not necessarily at a micro level. So my sodium, but I mean, you can use it as generality, just like I did with the protein. I was once good in 2019, but look at, I'm falling towards the end of the range. So I probably do need electrolytes. And if I had to have a problem with myself and self-diagnosing, and as good as my blood work is, it's more just muscle fatigue and just I'm not the sharpest as I should, and just energy is a little bit lacking. But again, it's coming back to the stupid basics like electrolytes, water, protein,
Well, on your hormones.
and hormones. But, besides the hormones, and this is where I'm going to say is a big fault to most people, is that I'm going to jump on the hormone bandwagon train before even addressing this. This is what your body was designed. We're hitting optimal levels because we want your body to take care of everything. So if you are deficient in all this and this is whack, you're going to have a hard time controlling hormones, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we always start here, then you go to hormones, in my opinion. Potassium's fine. That's within the range. Chloride is in the range. Carbon dioxide has to do with just more acid base in your blood. That's fine. Iron is huge, specifically in a female, right? They downplay it. They don't even check. And the thing about iron is you kind of have to catch it while it's going on. Anemias will not show up on your blood, typical CBC through your red blood cells, for 9 months of being out of whack. So you got a total shit show going on for 9 months until it shows up on your CBC. So you've been battling 9 months worth of symptoms before the doctor will ever catch it. So that's why I feel it's always important in a menstruating female, and even just in a menopausal female, just because of our diet nowadays. A lot of people who are just vegan or don't eat a lot of red meat, me being one of them, are low on iron. So we look at total iron, right? We want it to be between 40 to 190. I'm at 106. That's with me taking iron every day. So I have to, otherwise I'll fall low. I'm going to skip ferritin for 1 second. If I go one step further and look at iron binding capacity, here I was at 393. Here I'm at 337. The higher the number of the iron binding capacity, the more your body has a problem processing iron to get it into iron storage. It's still calling for iron. So when you have more iron readily available, the iron binding capacity number kind of goes down. Same with percent saturation. So I'm kind of dead center in the middle. I'm happy with that. The one thing that they forget to check and they do not put enough emphasis on, and that I want to put emphasis on, that everyone has their own optimal amount, is ferritin. So back in the day prior to this, I was falling, my ferritin levels were in the 30s. I had heavy legs, plantar fasciitis, I was having restless legs, headaches, palpitations. I couldn't catch my breath hard enough. And that was at 43. Now, our friend Sarah here, your ferritin was what, 20 something?
So it was 12 2 years ago. I just got my blood work done in the end of February and it was at 24. So it's came up a lot, but I mean, I take iron every day, so it hasn't came up a lot. So I still got work to do.
But my point is, you don't have those symptoms like I do at those levels, right?
No, I feel when I was at 12, I had my legs were killing me, the fatigue was incredible. So yeah, I mean, I feel a lot better where I am now, but yeah.
Yeah. So it took her to be down to 12. So again, don't let the doctor say just because you're here and fall for like the norm of other people. Ferritin is like a completely different beast. So I mentioned that ferritin is very important in even thyroid. So here I'm up to 84. To work optimally for thyroid, it needs to be between 90 to 110. So I'm like rocking. And this is finally high enough for me where I feel good. Now, again, I had all this, my legs are kind of like been restless lately and my muscles hurt. I thought my ferritin was going to be low. So here I can say, check, no, it's probably because I just don't drink enough and I'm not consuming enough electrolytes. So it's kind of just, it gives you something to just cross reference. Ferritin, I do want to say is so iron, there's heme iron and non heme iron. Non heme iron is going to come from your vegetables. Heme iron comes from red meat. Red meat, heme iron gets the iron into ferritin. So I, it depends on the type of iron you're consuming too. Anything you want to say about that?
I just think as we deal with this kind of, I'm going to call it a little bit of an epidemic as our young ladies mature and start their cycles and start to get into these heavier periods because of nutrition or kind of lack thereof. And that's not a blame on any parent or them, it's just the world we live in. That this is something that you need to advocate for your girls to get done when they go to get blood work. Make sure they have ferritin in there, make sure that D levels in there and the vitamin B12 levels in there too. It makes a big difference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because again, if the doctor says, well, we'll know through this blood work, no, because you're going to be 9 months behind. So, uh, platelets. So, CBC is another one that they normally do. Differential includes all the breakdown. So, I'll show you that. So, sometimes I'll order CBC plain or CBC with differential. I'll point out the differential part in a second. Platelet count, it's just how slippery your red blood cells are. I want it to be around 250. It's often related to magnesium consumption and then also omega-3 consumption. The higher the number, the more sticky your platelets or red blood cells are. So here, I'm good. It's my norm. So if yours comes up a little higher, it may be indicating the more need for magnesium or omega 3s. I do go by these reference ranges. I want them to be dead center, and that's where I look for them to be. If they're falling to the left of that range or to the right of that range, I know that something's going on, and it's kind of like an indicator of catching something now. So red blood cells, I'm kind of spot middle there, so I'm happy. Hemoglobin, same thing. Hematocrit, same thing. I'm looking for MCV and MCH. This is where if you become iron deficient, these will start becoming wonky. But again, it takes that 9 months to become wonky. The other indication, if these are going to the far left or far right, is B12. So see how mine is normally 88, 90, 90? That's good. That's where I want it to be. But I'm trending to the right a little bit. I'm hitting at 95.5. Well, we just discussed that my iron's perfectly fine. Love it. It's because I wasn't taking B12. So my B12, as we'll see, is kind of normal, but it's not optimal for me. Now, this doesn't mean that if you look at this and you're like, okay, well, I'm trending to the right at 95.5, I'm going to hop on B12. That's not it. It's just, it again takes a skilled practitioner to put all these puzzle pieces together. And it's just, how can you explain that, Sarah?
It's connecting the dots. And I'm just sitting here thinking about like going off script a little bit. There's not many people in this world that connect the dots quite like you do. Just truthfully. And we've seen that in people you've been able to help over the last couple of years. And I don't think sometimes you even give yourself enough credit for that because practitioners out there don't know a lot of what you're sharing right now. So, I mean, it's a total picture connecting the dots. Like everything plays together. Like you're connecting it right now of all of the the ferritins and the B12s and optimal and all that. So I don't know. It's just connecting the dots, the big picture.
Well, it's just getting the overall feel, right? A lot of times I think there's a downfall that people are just like, you need this because of this. No, it's just, you gotta like get the overall feel.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you do this, you're going to be on 15 supplements. And that's not our motive, right?
No,
Less
we
is
help.
more.
Yeah, we help people get off supplements every day. We're not. That's not our mo. with some practitioners out there, some practices out there that they keep their doors open through selling supplements. Good on them. That's not who we are. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just setting that foundation, and this blood work is such a good picture of your foundation.
Mhm. All right. Thanks for those kind words. So MCH, so we're going there. Now look at my MCHC. Oh, it's low. Well, that's also B12, right? I'm falling now instead of the right on the one, I'm falling left on the other. So this is because of B12. Normally I'm around spot on in the middle. So again, this doesn't mean I need to up my B12, although I wasn't taking it. It just gives us a general idea. Same with RDW and MPV. I want it to be in the dead center. Back in 2022, I was feeling something was awry. I don't remember what it was. I think I did a food sensitivity testing again. Is that when I did my beef?
Yeah.
So I was having major gut issues, and I was sensitive to a lot of things, food sensitivity wise, and I was driving inflammation. So I wanted to make sure that this wasn't like a rheumatoid arthritis type thing. So I pulled a SED rate. So that's why I did that. White blood cells. So this falls into this differential. So CBC, if it was that alone, all you would be looking at a white blood cell count. But because we request the differential, that will look at neutrophils, lymphocytes, eosinophils, things like that. Now, white blood cell is another thing. A lot of people have their norm. So my norm is around around 4 to 5, right? Some people have the norm, and I mean, it's when you fall below the white blood cell count. Let's just say I was 3.5 and it fell low. Typically, maybe you were getting sick, maybe you just got over an illness. So we'll repeat that in about, or we, as I usually refer and say, hey, check with your physician on this, because again, I can't diagnose, treat, cure. I'm just giving you suggestions as a nutritionist, not a pharmacist. If I was at 3.5, typical conventional medicine would say, let's repeat it in 4 weeks just to see if it went up. Now, if it didn't go up and you have consistent blood work over the past 5 years, maybe that's your norm. Maybe 3.5 is your norm, and that's completely okay. And again, this is why I am saying that having blood work every year gives you more information, right? I think it's very important to kind of just establish the norm and get baselines. The other thing is white blood cell count will sometimes be low because of thyroid issues. It will be low because of B12 deficiencies. It could be low because of even just low vitamin C. So there's a lot of things to look at in the big picture too. Neutrophils, lymphocytes kind of give me an idea. Now here, my neutrophils are fine, but look at my lymphocytes. Lymphocytes are trending up for me, right? And so this is, again, important of trends. We're at 1100, 1200, 12, 13. I am now up to 17. I am way far from this high here, right? So I'm looking at my norm. Now, if I go eosinophils, which to me, that's like an allergic reaction. Are you heavy with allergies? Is it allergy season? Do you have asthma? I'm going to expect a higher eosinophil. So my norm is between 100, 150, 160, 163. I'm up to 242. Now, this is kind of off on the left field, but I'm just being totally transparent because that's who we are. Another thing that I'm looking at, that I'm considering, is parasites. Now, I don't even want to go there, but I think it's important to know what's going on in my brain. I live on a farm. We all have parasites, right? I am not all about parasite cleanses, because sometimes if you don't have a good detoxification system, a good gut microbiome, if your body's already burdened, the last thing you want to do is your own at-home parasite cleanse. So it takes a practitioner, I feel, to do that. Um, but if we see trends increasing with lymphocytes and eosinophils, sometimes it's indicating of parasites. So I have a farm. I'm kissing on animals all the time. I'm working in horse and chicken poop. I am sure I've got, 15 million. I'm a crazy cat lady. I'm just wondering here if a lot of my muscle pain and weakness is just maybe an overburden of parasites. So I will probably be doing a parasite cleanse, but it's going to be properly done through one of our professional supplement companies. Anything to add there, Sarah? I kind of went off. It's not my normal talk, but
No, I was thinking it was important to add because it's just what's going through your brain and why you see that
yeah,
increase. But I don't have anything to add. I mean, I think we always tell people they come in all the time for a parasite cleanse, and we're like, we're really not your people for that. It's not something we specialize in. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to see what the blood work looks like next year after you take care of all that.
yeah. Um, what else? I was gonna say one other thing about the parasites though. Oh, a lot of people will say, well, can you test for them, right? We do have gut testings, but there's only a certain amount of parasites and worms that it does test for. And I've done that before and I was completely fine. So I think it's kind of just like a rogue weird thing. Um, but again, that's why it's important. I'm looking at my norms and this is why I'm stressing that. So when they do that, they'll look at parasites. They'll look at the differential in these different aspects, absolute, but then they'll throw them into percentages. So that's what that is. B12. Well, this is I'm glad I came up high here. So B12, I want it to be over 600. I feel that, and what I find with my consultations is anyone that falls under 400 is definitely symptomatic that maybe they're not, putting enough emphasis on. So that's ringing of the ears, that's neuropathies, your extremities are falling asleep. That could be heart palpitations. That could be just overall fatigue. That could be headaches. Could be a lot of things. So we always, when things are under 400, I know we're probably dealing with symptoms there. Here, though, high. Anything flying past 1100 is going to be considered high. Know that vitamin B12 is water soluble. You will pee it out. So vitamin B12 is so fast in your system. So if I took my B12 an hour before taking this blood work, it will be elevated because it's catching it directly in the blood, right? Um, so I don't buy it. If it's like over 2000, then I know, well, yeah, I've got to, dial down on it. But that's where I mentioned homocysteine comes in. Homocysteine is kind of like the true marker of what's actually getting into the cell. There's another blood test called methylmalonic acid, MMA. That's another look at B12 at how it's getting in the cell. This time I'm at 563. This is with me taking no B12, and this is just running off a dietary, maybe red meat or something like that. And it's decent. That's no B12 for the last 2 weeks. So it's okay, but we saw trends in my CBC. And then vitamin D3, I think this is the last thing here. Normals anywhere from 30 to 100. I want people to be around 50. And I always say it takes about 5,000 units of B or a vitamin D to maintain that level. If you don't, and you say you're taking 5,000 and you're only at 35 to 40, then I know we have absorption problems and maybe we need to add and consider vitamin K. Maybe we need to consider the form that you're taking. But 72 for me, that's taking 5,000 units a day is beautiful. And that's exactly where it should be. Now we could argue that, well, what if I'm 90? What if I'm 100? And a lot of conventional physicians, I feel they freak out a little bit saying, oh, that's dangerously high. There's a lot of literature behind that saying that vitamin D toxicity is not as common as what we had thought. I attend a clinical nutrition seminar every year, and last year there was a question about who has seen. So there was a over 100 different practitioners, nurse practitioners, MD, DOs, chiropractors, just even professional um, academic people, pharmacists. Who has seen vitamin D toxicity over their years of practice? Only two has seen that, meaning that they've seen symptoms related to blood levels, and they asked them a little bit more. And it was because the practitioners did it to themselves. So a pharmacist said, I overdid it and it was totally my fault. So it's, I don't think, as common as what they portray, because why they're saying that is vitamin D is a fat soluble vitamin. Any excess will be stored in the fat, in the tissue, and it's not like you're just going to pee the excess out like B12. So that's perfect. Is there anything else? I think that's it. Yeah, that's all I'm going to stop sharing here. What's your thoughts?
I think it's a good representation to show it like that. I think it was really good. I think you and I had this talk, and I'm dealing with hormone issues right now myself, and I just am sitting here thinking I'm very grateful that my foundation is where it is, because as much as I've been struggling with some things, I can't imagine where I would be without everything else kind of being in a good spot. But I also did have an appointment with my women's health nurse practitioner the other day, and we had a conversation because she happens to be a friend also, and she kind of called me out because I'm 43, haven't had a thermogram or a mammogram yet, and she kind of called me out on that. I'm like, yep, doing it next week, got it. What I realize is, like, I understand that everybody's a little different. Like, Hillary looks forward to her blood work every year. I dread it because I automatically think something's going to tell me on there that I'm dying tomorrow, and the same thing with all of this other testing and stuff like that. So, for those of us that try really hard not to make up stories about our health, it is worth it, because once you do it, you feel so much better. It gives you such good peace of mind, and you also get to see what you need to work on. So, if you're
I
like
think
me,
with that being said, like you do, I'm not, um, those thoughts go through my head too, right? So you're like, if you have those thoughts, you're like, shut down. I don't want to know, right? But this, to me, like using Alta Labs or finding a practitioner that you have got a great relationship, gives you power at just like pouncing on it and let's just take care of it, right?
yeah.
So it goes both ways.
Well, it's like just have to remind myself that I have tools in my tool chest to handle anything that would come up, right? Like I do know at the end of the day, like, how I would handle certain scenarios, right? If I was diagnosed with different things, and obviously curveballs are always thrown at us, but at the end of the day, it's just telling myself I'm not going to create those stories in my head, which is hard, But yeah, it's uh it's just crazy.
Yeah.
But it's a
All
good
right.
one.
Look at, we've been
Good
rolling
blood
for
work.
53 minutes,
Yeah, it's a long one. It's a long one.
but totally worth it. All right. Anything else you want to end? Any end remarks?
I don't think so. This is really good. Like I said at the beginning, I'll reiterate this whole thing. You can do it on your own. You don't need a doctor, but you could also take this blood work and have your insurance pay for it through your doctor. Hopefully, for $250 a year, it's a pretty good peace of mind, to know where you are and look at everything.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks.
All right. All right. Thanks.